So good evening. Welcome to our January huddle. We so appreciate you being here. The monthly huddles, they're the second Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. and they're kind of our all things redistricting updates. We have other days where we do petition trainings or other specific trainings or gatherings that are relating to signature collection. But this is just a general what's going on with redistricting. And sometimes we have speakers and sometimes we just catch up on what's happening in Ohio. I'm Mia Lewis from Common Cause Ohio, and I have my colleague, my boss, Catherine Terser from Common Cause here, and Elisabeth Warner from the League. And Dan Vicuna from Common Cause National is joining us, and Collin from ACLU is here. And we have invited Jean Henderson also, who is a all-star volunteer from Cincinnati, who's going to be talking with us this evening as well. So let me just go ahead and share the agenda. We're going to, Dan Vicuna is going to talk about a convening that was held recently in California that was about redistricting commissions. And, we can see where Ohio fits into that picture. We're going to talk about what's happening in Ohio right now with our effort to establish the Citizens Commission and let you know how you sign up. And then we're going to talk about a speakers bureau, which we're going to be getting started very soon, and some events that are coming up for special signing events for MLK weekend and Valentine's Day and primary election day. So that is it. And with that very brief introduction, again, welcome everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to Dan Vicuna.
Hey, everybody. Great to talk to you. As Mia mentioned, I just want to tell you a little bit about a really interesting and inspiring gathering that Common Cause helped to put on just before the holidays. We brought together citizen redistricting commissioners from around the country, those who are on, commissions of all types, kind of, truly independent commissions, advisory commissions, even some politician appointed commissions where an ordinary citizen might be a tiebreaker vote. And we brought just the non-politicians together to look at some lessons learned from how the last cycle went and think about ways to kind of improve the process in future cycles. And I think what came out of it was some things that are really kind of relevant to the Ohio experience as we look to gather signatures for a really amazing ballot initiative to bring independent redistricting to Ohio. But we did have, as you can see there, commissioners from all across the country, 14 commissions in 10 states, a lot of statewide commissions, a lot of commissions that drew districts for counties, cities, and it was just a really, really fascinating experience. And let me go to the next slide. We kicked it off with a welcome dinner, and Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor, who is, of course, instrumental in the leadership of the Ohio effort to bring independent redistricting to the state. She told the story of Ohio, and because this is really sort of the crown jewel reform effort, I think, for me in 2024. Please don't tell the other states I said that. But it's just an incredibly exciting opportunity. And we wanted the commissioners to know that they've, the amazing work they've done in bringing together Democrats, Republicans, independents, to try to draw maps in a fair manner, to hear public input, to really make it a community-centered process, that it has inspired a movement across the country, and with our next and most exciting effort in Ohio. So she told that story, and it was really, really exciting to the commissioners, and really got things off on an amazing note. So you can move to the next slide. So as I mentioned, part of the goal was to get, so we had some panel discussions where we sort of talked broad topics about sort of how commissions went in different types of different states, how selection processes went, how commissions might use data going forward, sort of some broad topics where we heard from experts around the country. But then really kind of the heart of the conference was our discussion sort of, off camera, not on Zoom, where we got commissioners to really be kind of forthright and give them an opportunity to speak truths about how the experience was and how they think it could be improved. And we, a more formalized version of, some of the takeaways are going to be released in a report maybe in the next month or so. But I did dig into kind of the raw notes and what some of the consensus opinions were. And these are some of the takeaways that, these commissioners learned that they think will ensure future reform efforts, kind of the takeaways they can take to improve things going forward. And the thing that was very heartening to me is that basically these match to a T what we're trying to push for in Ohio this year. They saw that a key to a successful independent commission is true independence, that you don't have commissioners who are being appointed as proxies for elected officials, which is something that's central to the Ohio effort. Ensuring diversity of the jurisdiction where the districts are being drawn, diversity of all sorts, to ensure that you have people from different walks of life who can understand, tell the stories of different communities around the state, give them all a fair shake, which is again explicit in the Ohio measure. Some compensation to at least make sure that commissioners, you can get a broader range of commissioners, not just folks who are coming to the table wealthy. There is, definitely reimbursement and some compensation for work done for the Ohio commissioners. A size of commission that's big enough to generate effective consensus, to hear from a lot of different points of view. And we've got a decent size in Ohio as well. Must have public trust. They had some comments on what the chair of a commission might be, and that you have a balance of parties. And we made sure in the Ohio measure, when kind of giving our perspective to Ohio stakeholders who kind of drove the process, that that it was important to have a balance of the parties to make sure partisanship could be kind of eliminated. That's central to the Ohio effort. And finally, on commission decisions, they need to be the final decision. There's states where, like Utah, for example, there's an advisory commission. That commission went around the state. Republicans, Democrats, and Independents came together, drew a consensus map that really did right by all the communities, as many as they could in the state. The legislature then had the role of final approval. They basically threw away the work the advisory commission did, started from scratch, and drew a partisan map. So especially those commissioners who were on advisory commissions who saw their work tossed, they thought that final decision-making power was essential. And again, that is central to what we're doing in the Ohio measure. This is politicians have been boxed out of the process, except for the fact that there's, of course, standard judicial review of maps. But so all in all, a great convening. Fortunately, we felt good that the consensus views of the commissioners who were in attendance really aligned with the reforms we're pushing around the country, and in particular with the reform we're all going to fight for in Ohio this year. So yeah, it was a great experience. Like I said, there will be a report on it, and there's some other things that'll be about implementation that are a little less relevant to this discussion that we'll think about when we pass the thing, or when we get ready for victory. But until then, it was great, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Dan. So yeah, I've been saying kind of in these sorts of discussions that Ohio is benefiting from the experience of other states that have done commissions, both the good experiences and the bad ones, in the sense that, when this language for this amendment was written, they could take into consideration, what went well and what didn't go well in other places. And I think we're all going to be glad when politicians have absolutely nothing to do with drawing the lines in Ohio. Anyone, I forgot to mention, please put your questions in the question and answer, the Q&A box, and then either we'll answer it as we go along or we'll answer it in general. And you will get a recording of this tomorrow, as well as the slides. So don't worry about that. You'll have an opportunity to go back over things. So if anyone has questions for Dan, I think he probably has to hop off pretty soon. But if you have questions about different kinds of commissions, pop it in there. Catherine.
I was going to say there is a good question here from Wendy. She's really interested, and I think a lot of us are worried about kind of the judicial review because of the merry-go-round, Groundhog's Day thing that we went through. So her question is, can you give more details about the judicial review? How does the amendment ensure that the judicial review is fair?
So we've really limited what it is the Ohio courts can look at when they're assessing commission maps. The way we design commission judicial review in the initiative gives a lot of deference to the citizen commission over kind of the elected state Supreme Court. So what the court is limited to is assessing whether, so there's a requirement, a criteria that basically the way the state votes, the electoral outcome should look about like that, right? One party wins about 52% of the votes, they should win about 52% of the seats. And what the court's been empowered to look at is that and only that. The court not going to be allowed to second guess the community testimony, the commission's interpretation of community of interest testimony, and other big important decisions that are really driven by public feedback that the commission is better set up to look at. It's really solely about just that kind of mathematical question about whether votes cast kind of pretty closely resemble the seat outcomes. And even in that situation, we've required the court to get a pair of special masters to do the actual drawing that have the same kind of conflict of interest restrictions. It can't be special masters that have done a lot of partisan work. So, they're the ones that are going to do any kind of redraw if there needs to be a redraw. So judicial oversight has been is pretty circumscribed to make sure that the work of the commission can't be messed with.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Dan. Well, there are a number of questions in the chat. Dan, if any one of us here, feel free to jump in and answer them, and we'll make sure that we answer as many as possible by the end of the hour. But we are going to move on, if that's okay. And really what we're going to talk about now is, given what's happening across the country, what is happening in Ohio. So in Ohio, the policy was written, this new policy that, Dan was talking about, and it was finalized in the summer. And then the summary went for certification to the Attorney General. As you all know, it was rejected a few times, and then it was certified. It went to the ballot board. It was certified as a single subject. And we are now collecting signatures. We will be collecting through probably May, June, and they have to be submitted to the Secretary of State by July 3rd. And then the boards of elections certify all those signatures and make sure that we have enough, and it gets certified by the Secretary of State. And it's on the ballot in November. We win. And then starting in the beginning of 2025, the policy goes into effect, and a commission is selected. The commission then draws a map in 2025 for use in 2026. So we get new maps in 2026, maps that were drawn by citizens, not politicians. So how are we going to do that? We need 488 valid signatures, and only 60 to 70% will be valid. So we're aiming to collect at least 700,000. I think we'll feel more comfortable if we have even more than that. And of those, at least 200,000 will be from volunteers. Volunteer signatures, I'm sure some of you have heard us say this before, they're better. They save money, and they're more likely to be valid, and they have a bigger impact because we have a conversation about the whole issue when folks are signing, and we remind them to vote. And so that's where we're at. The whole campaign has started. There are paid signature gatherers, and there are also many groups that are already active across the state. We have 130 leaders that have gone through a kind of leader process of filling out some extra forms across the state. We have a map, and Tiffany will pop this link in the map of distribution points across the state where you can hook up with one of these teams and you can get booklets to distribute. If you're trained, you have to be trained. We have more than 1,500 trained volunteers already in Ohio. It's January, folks. That's pretty good because, you know, signature collection is just going to ramp up as you know, as we get into the spring. So your first step is to sign up as a volunteer. And then after that, you train and you connect with your local leader. And we're going to share some training links with you later. We're having trainings once a week through January, and then they continue into February and March. And we also have an online training that you can do. And signature collection is not the only way to help this campaign. There are other ways. You can help at office hours. You can help, you know, sharing information on social media. You can send emails to people, reminding them about, you know, their shift if they've signed up to collect somewhere. There's all kinds of ways. If you sign up to volunteer and you link up with your local team, you can find a way to help. And one of the ways to get involved is with the Speakers Bureau. Now, many of you on here, I'm sure, were involved with the Speakers Bureau in 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 21, 22. We've had speakers bureaus about redistricting in Ohio a lot, but we're starting again. We're going to do a new speakers bureau, which is going to be about, you know, what is gerrymandering? What is the problem? What is our solution? And this is a great way to get involved. And you don't need to be This doesn't need to be that you're going to get in front of a huge auditorium and give a, you know, professional level presentation about every single last detail about gerrymandering and the Citizens Not Politicians Amendment. It could be that you get trained and then you just feel more comfortable talking to a group of friends, talking to your colleagues, talking to your book club, your garden club, whatever it is. So, you know, we have a full range of different ways of participating in the Speakers Bureau. And we have 2 signups, which I am hoping and assuming that Tiffany's putting in the chat. One is to let us know that you're interested, and the other is to actually register for a training. Now, Elisabeth Warner from the League of Women Voters has been organizing all of this and getting it all put together, and she's going to tell you, you know, how it works and what you need to do. So, Elisabeth.
Hello. I am going to tell you these things. Thank you, Mia. So a lot of people have expressed interest. I've been actually a bit astonished at how many people actually like talking in front of other people. This is amazing to me. So thank you. And as Mia said, you don't have to be an expert, but honestly, I think that pretty much everybody here is probably an expert. So I think you're starting in great shape. So the very first thing to do is to submit the speaker interest form, which I put in the chat, and we'll do that again. It will also be in the slides that you all get tomorrow. And then the next thing is to attend our Speakers Bureau training. And thank you, Tiffany. And that is when we will kind of game out what it looks like when you're up there in front of people talking about the amendment, about redistricting, about gerrymandering. We will give everybody who comes to those trainings a toolkit, and those toolkits have presentations, they have do's and don'ts, they have links to some other resources. So I think that they will be things that will help prepare people and feel comfortable getting up in front of strangers to talk about this thing that we are all so passionate about. And, you know, for people, even if you've done speakers bureaus in the past, even if you are extremely kind of well marinated in all of this stuff, not only do you have to come to the first training, but we would really encourage folks to come to multiple trainings as we go along, because there are going to be things that are updates from the campaign. There will be new things that we know that we want to be able to share with you, and maybe most importantly, there will be you as the returning speaker who can come back and share what you've experienced and what you've learned with folks who are new. And I think that that perspective is really valuable for everybody. It helps us get smarter all the way around. So I think that's it. If you are part of an organization that would like to have a Fair District speaker, we would also love to support you there. So I will put a link to request one of our brilliant speakers in the chat also. And I think that that is it. Just let me know if I can answer any questions, and I will put my email in the chat as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So yeah, this is going to be a really important way for folks to participate. One thing we did learn, from our previous experiences, you can't make a presentation once and be done. You have to keep updating it because things change. So this is, you will be continuously in contact with you about that. I did also want to invite Jean Henderson from Cincinnati to she ran a really successful speakers bureau last time around, and many people did, but I just happened to think of Jean, and she's already organizing for the next speakers bureau for this time around. And so, Jean, can you tell us a little bit about what you did and what kinds of places people gave presentations?
Sure. As was mentioned already, there are clubs, book clubs, Dems clubs, Republican clubs, things that are usually kind of small that you can wet your feet in, just get a feel for. And just remember, you don't have to know everything. You can always say, let me check on that if you get a question that you can't answer at the moment. But Cincinnati has 52 neighborhoods, and there are 52 community councils, and some cities might call them community forums. And those are great places to speak because people are there because they care about what's going on in their neighborhood. And I have found a lot of success getting into places, great acceptance rates. What we're trying new this year too is over 55 active adult living centers. And some of you may live in one of these, but these are places where you have gatherings and share news, what's going on in the building. But you can have a meet and greet with some snacks, and then have a signature collection. And lastly, I would say, and this was a surprise to me, but places of worship are really open if they have social justice action committees. They're very open to having you come and speak, and then setting up an event to come back and do signature collection. And I'm finding that as a hub, I'm handing out petition booklets to folks, and we're having little conversations, and some of them are saying, "Oh, my church does that. Let me get back to you." So it's stay open, talk to your leaders, and share information. But those are the top things, top places where I reach out and try to get speaking engagements.
That's awesome. And so did you have speakers? Did you have people who kind of signed up and, ended up doing 10 or more? And did you have people who, signed up and maybe just did 1 or 2, or how did that work?
I think that like most things, you're going to, if 20 people sign up, 8 people are going to be active, and maybe do 5 or 6. Some might do 2 or 3, but I think once they get kind of catch the bug, it's addicting. You want to go back and do it again. But I found that, people who want to talk, want to talk.
That's awesome. Okay, so the training, you have a month to sign up, basically. The first training is on January 30th. Yes, we will repeat trainings, but we also will have a recording so that folks can, if they can't catch an actual time for training, they can listen to a recording. And then once you've signed up, then somebody like Jean in an area will contact you and, start to offer you, well, we have this person has requested a presentation. Are you free to do that? Etc. And do you want to say anything more about that, Jean? Like how you would do that after people sign up? What happens after that?
What we're doing here after people sign up, we're sending a welcome letter that has all the great links that you share with us, and let them know how they can reach out to us, and then try to get them involved we have a an events calendar, or it's a Google spreadsheet, and share that with them, that have all kinds of large events that are at like Duke Energy Center, the basketball games that are going on, gives them all kinds of opportunities. They can see what's happening throughout the city and figure out where they belong. You know, some people would rather be at the library, and that's great. Some people, they're good with being out in the cold and collecting signatures in a parking lot. So that's what we try to do here.
Yep. Find everybody the place that works best for them. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we will have plenty of time to answer more questions about the Speakers Bureau as we go along. We will mention this at all of our, all of our trainings and events. We'll let people know about this. And speaking of trainings and events, Catherine Terser is going to talk about some signature collection events that are coming up, some special ones, and a bunch of trainings as well.
Hey, so I just, wanted to take a moment. We're moving into Martin Luther King Jr. weekend and Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And this is really a time for all of us as, activists, advocates, and folks who love democracy and voting to take a moment to really reflect and to think. And it's also, of course, an opportunity to collect some signatures, connect with folks that care a lot about voting. And so, Mia, if you'll move to the next slide, there are events over the MLK weekend, and here we have some. Now, if I am missing any here, these are places where folks will be collecting signatures. And so there's everything from Oberlin to Upper Arlington. I would encourage all of us to let folks know that there's signature collection that's going on there. If you are attending these things, please sign. If you are interested in joining the folks that are collecting signatures, for example, at the Akron Library, please let us know and we'll make sure to connect you with the regional leader and the folks that are organizing. So we also wanted to highlight, just the challenge of advertising these things. So yes, we're going to be doing a better job of putting things on the website so folks will know. We'll also soon have access to Mobilize so people can look and see where signature collection events are happening. But yes, as we're moving out of the holiday season, I think it's, important to realize that now it's the time to really promote things and let people know about signature gathering events. And Mia looks like she wants to add something.
Well, I just wanted to add that we didn't capture all of the events, and apologies to any that we forgot to, get onto this this slide. So folks are dropping some things in the chat as well, some additional signups and places that are gathering signatures on MLK weekend. So please add yours. If there are others that we've forgotten, please add them. And I will go to the next slide.
All right, sounds like a plan. So we're going to move on further into the calendar. So I don't know if you noticed that the next time we're supposed to have a Fair District's monthly huddle, that it happens actually on Valentine's Day. And so because we didn't want to interrupt the love, because we want you to be able to get together with your sweetie, we are going to actually cancel that. But we do want to encourage you, use Valentine's Day as an opportunity to do signature collection events. This is an opportunity to show your love for democracy and create an event or a drive-through where people sign the petition and show their love for democracy. I also, really wanted to highlight this, fun Valentine here. Electoral manipulation is real, just like our love. Anyway, so please consider, collecting some signatures on Valentine's Day, and we will see you in March rather than in February for the next Fair District's huddle. And so this is the other thing is, it's hard to imagine. We've talked a long time about getting into 2024, and we're actually at 2024, which means we're at the point where we need to start thinking about the primary election. This is going to be a really good day. This is, these days are the days where voters go to polling locations and we can collect a bunch of good signatures. Clearly there's a picture here of early vote 2. one of the things that we want to do is organize the folks so that we're creating a wonderful army of signature collecting warriors on election day. So I highly encourage you to volunteer. And for folks that, you know, are a little bit hesitant, I always encourage you, you know, you want to attend the training and then you look for a buddy to do it with, you know, test it out, see how things go, talk to your neighbors first, talk to your friends first, and that'll prime you to really get ready. And then the training that Mia gives is really detailed in all of the different kind of specific things that make sure that the petition booklet is good. And I know we run into all sorts of questions. So the other thing is, I wanted to highlight, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I want to encourage us to collect those photos. I love this picture because you can tell the weather is not the best. These are truly folks that are wonderful redistricting reformers. And actually they got way more signatures than you would expect. And so, you know, one of the things that can help people understand like how committed we are, that folks are out and about, to build excitement, is to get those pictures, and they can be part of social media. The other thing is, we'll make sure that you have some lovely social media images to use for Valentine's Day too. Elisabeth Warner is here. Earlier, she talked about the Speakers Bureau. Elisabeth, do you want to say anything about your plan for social media and Valentine's Day?
Well, I kind of want it to be a surprise, but inspired by that gerrymandering Valentine that Catherine just shared. I have a couple that I'm going to do for social, and maybe we can figure out some way that we can get them to you all ahead of time, and also maybe make them like physical material that you can pass out while you are doing signature collection on Valentine's Day. So it's things like, hey babe, I love you, like politicians love to draw their own maps. So stuff like that, just to be sort of silly. So yeah, maybe that will be a fun thing.
Well, and Mia's
We have to
talked
have
about
fun.
putting together signs. So many of us kind of have signs, just like the one that's in this picture that says "End gerrymandering, sign the petition." But we can also do signs about love democracy, sign a petition. So we'll be working on that and get those out and about to you very soon. And with that, we also have trainings that are coming up. I did want to highlight, you know, this is messaging for signature collection. Yes, we have the Speakers Bureau training, but for many of us, we want to be able to figure out the best way to talk about signature collection, the best way to talk about the Citizens, Not Politicians amendment. And so this is one where we will walk through and help you think about, well, how do you do your pickup lines? Or sometimes they call it your rap. How do you approach people? What works best? And really helping people find their authentic message. So that's going to be Tuesday. We're talking about January 16th, and we're talking about 6 p.m. So, you know, put it in your books, folks. We'd love to see you there. And with that, we have other trainings coming up. Now, before I go through the trainings that are here, I did want to encourage you, if you have not signed up to volunteer already, you want to be sure to fill that in. Now, you might say, well, maybe I already did it. Maybe I didn't. If you're not sure if you signed up, please do, because one of the things we're trying to do is make sure that we have good records and that we have your contact information. So please make sure you sign up to volunteer. And then, you know, we have a bunch of trainings coming up that focus on petition circulation. And much like I said before, Mia will work through all of the different details, because the conversations about redistricting should be about, you know, what's in the amendment. Why do we care about gerrymandering? What are the benefits? And answering folks' questions and getting them to sign the booklet. But it is also a paperwork nightmare is coming to mind. There are a lot of ways that things can go slightly wrong and a signature doesn't count. And so those are trainings that give you lots of details. So even if you actually already done a training, I highly encourage you to actually participate in that. You can also watch a recording, and you can see slides. We're going to send you a follow-up, so you'll actually also get the online quiz then. And then once again, our next huddle, our next Fair Districts All Volunteer Huddle is on March 13th. And with that, Mia, do you have things you want to add or questions you want to answer?
I don't actually, and this was a relatively short huddle this evening. Usually we have way too much stuff to go through, but we're so busy doing trainings. We did a training yesterday and we're doing a leaders meeting tomorrow. There's meetings almost every night of the week. So we really just wanted to introduce the whole Speakers Bureau idea to you and let you know like where we're at in Ohio and answer any of your questions. And we appreciate all of your questions that, and we are eager to answer any more if anybody has any. I see questions popping up in the chat. So that's about it. And so as Catherine said, our next huddle is in March, but in between there's the messaging training and the Speakers Bureau's training and all the signature collection training. One thing that's a little confusing to some people is that even if you've signed up to train, you still have to fill out the volunteer sign-up form. The reason for that is that the volunteer sign-up form has more information in it, and that's where the local leaders get the lists of people that they need to reach out to. So if you haven't signed up on the volunteer sign up, nothing's going to happen. Even if you've trained, nothing will happen because we need you to sign up in order to reach out to you and connect with you and make sure you're connected to your leader. If you have signed up on the volunteer sign up form and you haven't heard from anybody, it could be that a message went to spam. But feel free to reach out to us and we will put you in touch with your local leader. A couple people just today are in Cincy and they hadn't heard from anyone. Maybe a message went to spam, who knows? So I put them in touch with Jean and Jean can reach out to them. And so it's absolutely fine. We want to make sure everybody's engaged. And also just to realize that, there's a lot of us involved. There's a lot of different groups. There's Common Cause, there's League, there's ACLU. There's so many different groups that are going to be collecting. So in your area, there may be multiple different groups operating and multiple different groups wanting you to sign up to volunteer at their events. That's great. The more our attitude is, the more the merrier. So, you can sign up anywhere as long as you're trained. And as long as you return your petition booklets to where you got them to help folks keep track of everything, believe me, it's harder than it seems. So it helps us out if you are responsive to your team leaders and if you return booklets where you got them. But other than that, honestly, feel free to volunteer with whatever group.
And I wanted to highlight that Elisabeth spent a lot of time updating the Fair District's website, which includes, kind of frequently asked questions about the amendment. You can do a deep dive looking at the amendment. It also includes everything from like the do's and don'ts for, petition circulation so that you'll have that information as well. And it includes some event information as well. Elisabeth, do you want to give the website and tell them a little bit about what's on there and what they should look for?
Sure. So it is fairdistrictsohio.org, and it is the same website that you have known and loved for a long time with just a couple little zhuzhes. So it's got updated information about our events. So, definitely the huddle every month. It has the trainings for petition circulators. It has trainings for the messaging for being a petition circulator. And then it has the FAQs for both redistricting generally and for the Citizens Not Politicians Amendment. And they're both fairly detailed. So I think, a lot of times when we do these speaking events, there are questions that are not things that you might see in a television commercial. So it's really helpful, I think, to be able to spend some time with these FAQs. It gives you kind of a deeper and more robust understanding of what is involved. And If there are things that you wish would be on the website, let me know. It is very much a working document, but just in website form. So just let me know if there are things that you think would be helpful to yourself or other folks.
And thank you. And I'm going to answer this. I was typing, but I'm actually going to answer this question for everyone. Larry asked, how do fair districts and citizens, not politicians, interface? And so Fair Districts is a group that's been active in Ohio for years, if I could even say decades, in terms of the coalition groups that have been a part of it. They've been fighting for redistricting reform in Ohio. And we're currently collecting signatures to try to pass the Citizens Not Politicians Amendment. That group, the Citizens Not Politicians group, they're responsible for, putting the amendment together, getting it on the ballot, getting it passed. But in the years to come, when we're trying to implement that, we're trying to hold everybody accountable to what's in that amendment, that'll be Fair Districts. We'll still be on the ground. So, we're a coalition and we're working to get that passed. But we're 100% working together. Like you can think of us almost as the same thing for now, but we're going to be around way, way into the future. Fair Districts is. We will be sending the yes. So Jennifer is asking about links, slides. So we have a link that to a recorded training and a link to slides and a link to quiz. And it's fine for you to send all of that to folks. If you send those three things together, that's absolutely fine. So I think that is it. Anybody have anything else?
Well, and I repeatedly shared an email. So if you end up having questions or something didn't get answered, just touch base.
Yep. And we really appreciate you being here. This is what makes Ohio special, is the quantity and quality and fervor of our redistricting reformers. It's insane, guys. 1,500 trained volunteers on January 10th. It's amazing. We're amazing. So thank you all so much. And we will see you very, very soon.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Collin. Thank you, Tiffany. Big thank you to Elisabeth.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We'll
See you later.
See you in March and see you at a bunch of different trainings. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.